She shouldn't even be on that stage, my mother-in-law said with a loud laugh that echoed across the school gym. Some kids just aren't special. My 8-year-old daughter stopped walking. She looked down at her small white shoes and gripped her graduation certificate folder so tightly that her knuckles turned pale. Parents nearby fell silent. A few looked away. Others stared at us, unsure whether to step in. I leaned down and whispered, "Keep walking, sweetheart. Don't let anyone decide who you are." She nodded, even though tears filled her eyes. Just then the principal stepped toward the microphone, holding a sealed envelope in his hand. He cleared his throat and said, "Before we continue, there's one letter everyone in this room needs to hear. My name is Natalie Brooks. I'm 34 years old, and until that moment I thought I already knew how much pain one family could cause. I work as an elementary school librarian. Every day I help children discover books that make them laugh, dream, and believe in themselves. I love watching shy kids slowly raise their hands in class because a story gave them confidence they didn't know they had. Ironically, the child who struggled most to believe in herself was my own daughter, Lily. After my husband and I got married, I imagined our families becoming one. Instead, I spent years feeling like an outsider. His mother, Diane, never hid how little she thought of me. According to her, I wasn't ambitious enough, stylish enough, or successful enough. When Lily was born, I hoped everything would change. It didn't. As Lily grew older, Diane compared her to the other grandchildren every chance she got. One cousin won spelling contests. Another played piano in public. Another scored goals in soccer. Lily was different. She loved books, drawing little animals, and helping classmates who felt lonely. She was gentle. She was thoughtful. She hated standing in front of crowds. Diane saw those quiet qualities as weaknesses. "She's too shy," she'd say. "She'll never stand out. She needs to be more like the others." Those words hurt me. They hurt Lily even more. I worked long hours at the library and picked up extra projects at home just to make sure my daughter never worried about the bills. Some nights I stayed awake after midnight preparing reading activities for struggling students across our school district. Then I'd wake before sunrise to make Lily breakfast and braid her hair before class. Life wasn't glamorous. Our apartment wasn't large. Our vacations were simple weekend trips to local parks. But every night Lily went to bed knowing someone loved her without conditions. That mattered more to me than expensive gifts or perfect family photos. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. Years of quiet work had taught me that patience often speaks louder than pride. I learned that preparation matters more than showing off. Most people only notice success after it becomes impossible to ignore. They never see the lonely evenings, the sacrifices, or the silent determination that comes first. Diane certainly never did. She believed people like me would always stay in the background. She had no idea how wrong she was. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to say something to anyone listening who has ever watched someone they love get judged unfairly. Maybe people looked at your child and decided they weren't smart enough. Maybe your family treated you like you would never accomplish anything. Or maybe you've spent years protecting someone who deserved kindness instead of criticism. If that sounds familiar, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments. Quiet people often carry invisible strength, even when nobody notices it. If you've ever stood up for someone others underestimated, I'd love to hear your story. And if you believe kindness deserves to be celebrated, click hype, or leave a like before we continue. The morning of Lily's graduation began with excitement. She woke up before I did. When I walked into the kitchen, she was already sitting at the table wearing her graduation dress, carefully eating toast while reading one of her favorite books. "You couldn't sleep?" I asked with a smile. He grinned. I was too excited. I laughed. So was I. We spent nearly an hour getting ready together. I curled the ends of her hair while she practiced smiling in the bathroom mirror. "What if I trip?" she asked. "You probably won't. But what if I do? Then you'll stand back up." She smiled. "And everyone will clap anyway?" "I promise." He believed me. I wish the rest of that day had been as simple as that conversation. When we arrived at school, the gym buzzed with happy families taking pictures. Children ran around proudly showing off their graduation caps while teachers greeted parents at the entrance. The air smelled faintly of fresh flowers mixed with the polished wooden floor of the gymnasium. Then Diane arrived. She didn't greet Lily. She walked straight toward another grandchild wearing a collection of academic ribbons. "There's my little star," she announced loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. She hugged him tightly before finally glancing in our direction. "Oh," she said flatly. "You're here too." Lily's smile faded just a little. I squeezed her hand. "It's okay," I whispered. But deep inside I knew this day was already beginning exactly the way I had feared. Diane didn't stop there. She spent the next several minutes introducing relatives to the other grandchildren as if they were celebrities. Every achievement became a speech. This one won the science fair. She plays piano beautifully. He already reads 2 grades above his class. Whenever someone looked at Lily, Diane simply shrugged. "She's quiet." That was all she said. It felt as though my daughter wasn't even standing beside me. Lily pretended not to notice, but I knew her too well. She started twisting the ribbon on her graduation folder, something she always did when she felt nervous. I bent down. "You doing okay?" She forced a smile. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Soon the photographer gathered all the families for pictures. "Let's make room," he called. Everyone shuffled into place. Before I could stand beside Lily, Diane stepped between us. "No, no," she said. "Put the award winners in front." Then she looked at me. "You two can stand on the end. You're mostly here to watch anyway." A few relatives laughed awkwardly. Nobody disagreed. My husband, Ryan, gave me an apologetic look but stayed silent. I quietly led Lily to the edge of the group. The camera flashed. The picture captured smiling faces. It also captured a little girl trying very hard not to cry. As families waited for the ceremony to begin, Diane continued comparing grandchildren. She held one child's certificate high. "Now this is something worth celebrating." Then she glanced at Lily. "Not everyone stands out. That's just life." Several parents nearby heard every word. One mother frowned. Another whispered something to her husband. I could feel heat rising into my face. I wanted to answer. I wanted to tell Diane that kindness mattered more than trophies. Instead I looked at Lily. She needed comfort, not another argument. I knelt beside her. "Remember what we talked about?" She nodded. "My value doesn't come from what other people say." "Exactly." She took a slow breath. "I'm trying, Mom." "I know you are." Ryan finally walked over. "Can we just ignore Mom today?" he asked quietly. "It's Lily's day." I stared at him. "She's attacking our daughter." "I know." "Then say something." He rubbed the back of his neck. "If I confront her now, she'll make an even bigger scene." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So your solution is to let her keep humiliating an 8-year-old? He looked away. "I'm just trying to keep the peace." Those words hurt almost as much as Diane's insults. Keeping the peace always seemed to mean one thing. Lily and I were expected to stay quiet. The ceremony finally began. Children lined up behind the stage curtain. Teachers smiled warmly as soft music played through the speakers. Parents filled every chair. The sound of folding seats opening and closing echoed across the gym while excited whispers floated through the room. Lily reached for my hand one last time. "I'm scared." "You can do this." "What if Grandma laughs again?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Then look at me instead." She nodded. "I love you, Mom. I love you more." When her class was called, Lily stepped into line. She stood straight even though her shoulders trembled. I couldn't have been prouder. One by one, children crossed the stage. Every family clapped. Every child smiled. Then it was Lily's turn. She took her first step. Before she reached the principal, Diane laughed loudly enough for half the gym to hear. "She shouldn't even be on that stage." A terrible silence followed. Then she added, "Some kids just aren't special." The words struck harder than any shout. Lily froze. She looked down at the floor. Several parents turned toward Diane with shocked expressions. A teacher near the front shook her head. Someone quietly whispered, "That's awful." I stood up immediately. "Keep walking, sweetheart," I called gently. She looked at me. I smiled through tears. "You earned this." Slowly she continued toward the stage. The principal handed her certificate with unusual care. He leaned down and said something that made Lily give a tiny nod. Then he looked toward someone near the entrance. A staff member hurried across the gym carrying a large sealed envelope. The principal accepted it, glanced at the return address, and his expression changed completely. He walked back to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced calmly, "before we conclude today's graduation ceremony, we've just received something very important." The entire room fell silent. Even Diane stopped smiling. Nobody knew what was inside that envelope. Neither did I. But somehow I felt everything was about to change. I sat there holding my breath while the principal looked at the envelope. The room had become so quiet that I could hear the soft hum of the air conditioner and the gentle rustle of graduation programs as parents shifted in their seats. The principal smiled in my direction. For a second I wondered if he had mistaken me for someone else. He broke the seal carefully. Before he unfolded the letter, my eyes met someone standing near the side of the stage. It was Dr. Evelyn Carter. She had been my supervisor years earlier when I helped create reading programs for struggling students across our district. She had always believed in me even when I doubted myself. She gave me a small smile. Not a surprised smile. A knowing one. I suddenly remembered the phone call we had shared weeks earlier. "I submitted your literacy project," she had told me. "I don't expect anything from it," I had answered. "You should." After that conversation, life became busy again. Bills. Work. Homework with Lily. Family drama. I stopped thinking about the project altogether. What nobody in my husband's family knew was that every night after Lily went to sleep, I wrote children's stories designed to help shy readers gain confidence. I created lesson plans. Reading games. Simple activities teachers could use without expensive materials. Schools across our state had quietly started using them. I never bragged about it. I never posted about it online. I simply wanted children like Lily to feel seen. Every page I wrote carried a little piece of her heart. Every character who learned courage reminded me of my daughter. What they didn't know was I had a plan they never saw coming. Not a plan for revenge. A plan to keep building something meaningful no matter how often they laughed at us. Dr. Carter once told me, "Real success is quiet until the day it isn't." Those words suddenly echoed inside my mind. Meanwhile, Diane leaned toward another relative and whispered, "I wonder what this delay is about." She still sounded confident. Still certain the day belonged to her. Ryan looked increasingly uncomfortable. For the first time all morning he wasn't looking at his mother. He was looking at me. Then the principal adjusted the microphone. "Before we dismiss our graduates," he began, "our school has the privilege of recognizing someone whose work has reached far beyond these walls." Parents exchanged confused looks. Teachers smiled. Dr. Carter folded her hands and waited. The principal continued. "Earlier this year, the State Department of Education reviewed literacy programs submitted from across the state. My heart started racing. There was one program that stood above the rest because it helped children overcome reading anxiety while building confidence through storytelling. I covered my mouth. Oh, it couldn't be. The principal unfolded another page. "The recipient of this year's Excellence in Early Literacy Award is Natalie Brooks." For a moment I couldn't move. The entire gym looked toward me. Dr. Carter started clapping first. Then the teachers joined her. Within seconds the entire room erupted into applause. I heard someone behind me say, "That's Lily's mom." Another parent whispered, "She's the one who wrote those reading activities?" The principal smiled warmly. "Mrs. Brooks has spent years creating free educational resources now being used in classrooms throughout our state." I slowly walked toward the stage. My legs felt weak. Lily stared at me with wide eyes. "Mom." I smiled. "It's okay, sweetheart." The principal wasn't finished. He lifted the letter again. "It also says something very important." He looked directly at Lily. The inspiration behind these stories was Mrs. Brooks' own daughter, Lily, whose courage and kindness reminded her mother that every child deserves to feel confident. The room became silent again. Then the principal said softly, "Lily, thank you for inspiring work that has already helped thousands of children." Teachers stood first. Parents followed. Soon the entire audience was on its feet. A standing ovation. For my daughter. Tears streamed down Lily's face. Not tears of shame. Tears of relief. She looked at me and smiled the biggest smile I had seen in years. Dr. Carter stepped beside the microphone. "I've watched Natalie stay after work countless evenings," she said. "She never asked for recognition. She simply wanted children who felt invisible to know they mattered." She looked toward Lily. "And now we all know where that compassion came from." The applause grew even louder. I turned toward Diane. She sat frozen in her chair. The confidence she had carried all morning had disappeared. Several relatives who had laughed with her now avoided looking in her direction. One quietly shook his head. Another folded his arms without saying a word. Ryan slowly walked toward me. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have defended both of you." I looked at him calmly. "You should have. I was wrong." "Yes. I'll do better." "I hope you do." Then I looked at Diane. She finally stood. "Natalie," she began. I raised my hand gently. "No." She blinked. I didn't know. You never wanted to know." She lowered her eyes. "I was unfair." "You weren't just unfair." I glanced toward Lily. "You made an 8-year-old believe she wasn't enough." She opened her mouth but couldn't find any words. There wasn't anything left to say. I accepted the award from the principal. I thanked the teachers. I hugged Dr. Carter. Then I knelt beside Lily. "What do you think?" I asked. She wrapped her arms around me. "I think today became the best graduation ever." I laughed through my tears. "I think you're right." When the ceremony ended, parents came over one after another. Many thanked me for my reading programs. Others hugged Lily. One father said, "My son finally enjoys reading because of your stories." A teacher quietly added, "You've changed more lives than you realize." As we walked toward the exit, Lily held my hand tightly. She wasn't hiding behind me anymore. She walked proudly beside me. Ryan carried our bags without saying much. For once, silence meant reflection instead of avoidance. Behind us, Diane remained surrounded by uncomfortable relatives. Nobody praised her. Nobody defended her. She was left alone with the consequences of her own words. That day changed my family forever. Not because I received an award. Because my daughter finally saw proof that cruel voices don't get to define her future. From that day forward, I made one promise to myself. My child's emotional safety would always come before anyone else's approval. If protecting her meant disappointing relatives, so be it. Some relationships can heal. Others require distance. Either way, my responsibility was clear. As we reached the parking lot, Lily squeezed my hand. "Mom." "Yes. I'm proud of you." I smiled. "I'm proud of you too." She looked up at the bright afternoon sky. "I think I really am enough." I hugged her tightly. "You always were." The loudest voices don't always tell the truth. Sometimes quiet courage speaks so powerfully that no one can ignore it. If you've ever watched someone you love get embarrassed in front of other people, I know how deeply that hurts. Please share your story in the comments because someone reading it may need that encouragement today. Parents, grandparents, teachers, and caregivers all have the power to protect a child's confidence. If you believe kindness leaves a stronger legacy than criticism, subscribe and become part of this community. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else facing similar family struggles. Thank you for being here, thank you for listening, and never stop reminding the people you love that they are enough exactly as they are.